If you don't have a very clear story of the value of what you're selling, it doesn't matter how amazing your TikTok is. Jeff Bezos famously said, there is no algorithm for compressing time.
AI makes it easy to build a product, build a platform, build a website, do everything else, but your ability to get distribution. When you run ads, it's almost like a certain drug that gets you to sleep. Unless you take the drug, you can't sleep.
One of the most wonderful things about AI SEO is that it helps you build a moat. If you crush SEO, it's going to be very difficult for your competitors to catch up with you quickly.
Yeah.
Anyone online that is selling like, here's the golden ticket to marketing success, I would approach with a lot of caution. In the past, SEO was all about backlinks, and now we're moving towards a strategy of like third-party brand mentions. LLMs care about how your brand shows up on the internet.
We should flash that on the screen. Start from the bottom of the funnel. That's so powerful. So welcome to Edbound with Kinner. Rita, it's such a pleasure to have you with us. I'm a big fan.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Lovely. Now, I have so many questions. You have such a diverse background. You've kind of, experimented with entrepreneurship. You've led GTM at a company that grew like a rapid pace, 500 employees and onwards. And, now you lead academy education at SEMrush, which is like one of the largest companies in the space and an iconic tech startup, if we could still call it a startup. So how would you introduce yourself in a room full of other tech entrepreneurs, investors? I don't know how do you like to kind of, summarize or encapsulate it?
Okay. That's such an interesting question. I should probably have a better answer. I mentor a lot of people and I tell them, you should always have an elevator pitch for yourself. And here I am, like without a strong elevator pitch for myself. So I like to introduce myself in there's two different ways, two different approaches. One is that I often think of myself as kind of an artist that went to business school. And I think so many of the roles that I've had put me in that position where often in the middle. Like I'm not fully on the artistic side of marketing, the creative side of marketing. I'm also not fully in the business side of marketing. So this middle position between the two, having gone to business school, but also have a background in like journalism and liberal arts, I think gives me an opportunity to be quite a good mediator between the two sides of the business, to like understand both, try to get them to get along and move projects forward. So I think that sort of unifies like my entire background, but more from, I guess, a marketing technical perspective. I think I would say that I am very much like, I'm a very strong marketing generalist, or like a very strong full stack marketer, shall I say. Like I've had the incredible pleasure, honestly, and luck to have had a very diverse series of experiences, as you referenced earlier. Just people that like gave me an opportunity, a chance to like run various interesting projects. And so I've done nonprofit, for-profit, B2B, B2C, B2B long tail, B2B enterprise. I've run my own business. I am a professor of marketing, both like online, but also here in Vienna at the local business school. So I wouldn't say I've done it all because that's impossible, but I've done enough that I find myself very confident in saying that I'm a full stack marketer and quite a well-rounded marketing generalist with quite a lot of both breadth and depth of experience.
Wow. No, that's quite a handful. Quite a handful. No, I'll tell you something. I think elevator pitches are for people who are too objective and, they have to make a split-second decision about whether they're going to talk to you again or not. And I think all good conversations, friendships or connections that mean a lot, they don't fall in that criteria or need, right? So I think you're spot on, because if I meet you at an event and I hear all of this, and I certainly get a lot to understand about, is this a person I want to talk to more, right? And it is certainly a brilliant background that puts you right at the intersection of so many different domains that kind of enables you to be a great marketer, because I feel marketing is at kind of an inflection point. I think it's just at a time when it's certainly becoming one of the most important skills that you could have, because AI makes it easy to build a product, build a platform, build a website, do everything else, but your ability to get distribution. And I think you do have such diverse, intersection of things that makes you that person.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I mean, I always like to say that marketing is a superpower. And I think that it's a life skill in many ways.
Read that on your website. It's brilliant. You know how you kind of put it in that one liner where you're saying that this is a skill that you've got to learn, whether you're a creator, an entrepreneur, whatever you're doing. I think, and that's so spot on. And that's what made me kind of really look forward to this. You know, I have so many questions bubbling up. But let's begin at the beginnings, right? I mean, what made you interested in marketing? And was this, I mean, you've done so much. What was that need or the turning point?
I actually didn't in college. I studied French and like basically liberal arts, like French and international relations. I never really thought about marketing as a career. It was never presented to me as an option. Didn't know it existed, to be completely honest. But I was very involved in my college radio station. I started working as a journalist there, and then I managed the radio station. It was this very tiny alt rock radio station, WBRU 95.5. And we billed like $2.2 million in advertising a year. So it was student run, but a proper business. So
Annual. You mean $2.2 million annually?
yeah. Yeah. And
well, that's pretty good for a student run. Yeah. Wow.
Very good for a student run organization. I mean, we had a professional sales team, but I was the general manager of that radio station for a year. So sort of rotating board of students. And that experience was what really opened the door to a career in business in general. Like I realized I had gotten into radio because I thought that I love to tell stories and I love to talk to people. Like I love being in this podcast. I love meeting you. And I always thought that would translate into a career in journalism. It was just what was in my head. I think I watched a lot of movies too about like struggling journalists in New York. And I really wanted to be that girl, like doing that. I don't think that's an uncommon wish for a lot of people. And I was very lucky to discover very early at BRU that actually being a good storyteller is not just a journalism skill, or it doesn't mean that you will become necessarily even a writer, but that in business, storytelling is really critical. Like storytelling to your team, to tell a vision, to your manager, to explain to people like why they should invest in your projects. So I was lucky that I got a job at National Public Radio right after. It was because I met my boss at the station that I was running. He gave me an opportunity I was running fundraising actually. So I even at that time, didn't realize it was marketing. It was only later when I went to business school that they asked me, oh, what's your background? And I said, well, I ran fundraising for a startup national public radio station. And they just put a stamp on my forehead. They're like, oh, you're a marketer. I said, okay, I guess I am in marketing. But I had never thought about it that way before, honestly. So I kind of stumbled into this industry. It was not a planned move at all.
Wow. No, but that's how a lot of people discover what they would love to do. I mean, it was quite similar for me. I'd studied biotechnology, ended up learning a lot about artificial neural networks, AI, kind of fell in love with it. But over the years, I think I've developed this deep interest in marketing. I think for the same reason. I believe the biggest impact in business doesn't matter how much innovation you drive, what you build, unless you can get that distribution, get it in the hands of more and more people, doesn't matter. And, let me just be honest, I've kind of, raised about $3 million for my last startup, which didn't kind of get to the point where I thought it would, because, we weren't like super smart about the way we wanted to market and also to the right audience. So I think that's how it all developed. But it's fantastic. You talk about, how storytelling is essential as a backbone to marketing. Your experiences from small to large enterprises and very large organizations. My focus is going to be about someone, two types of organizations. One that are kind of going to a Series B. So they've figured a ICP. But I also like to talk a little bit about people who are struggling in the beginning, right? I mean, going from, let's say, zero to their first $1 million in ARR. So I'll divide my question for those two audiences, if that's all right, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think in today's term with AI? Can we outsource all the storytelling and getting our messages right to point for any stage of our journey in the enterprise marketing? Do you think that's possible now?
Okay, yes, like most things in marketing is yes and no. I think so. Not to like give the professorial answer, but to go back to sort of the foundations of what I believe marketing to be. I think it gets very confusing what marketing is, because it's become an explosion of different channels. A lot of like when you talk to a lot of executives, they equate marketing with TikTok. Some equate marketing with events, especially in B2B. Like to me, it's important to always get back to the same page of what is it that we're trying to do when we talk about marketing. And in my mind, marketing is at its essence about communicating value. So marketers, I mentioned earlier about standing in the middle. I think part of the reason, again, why I've been successful in my job is because I'm very comfortable in this middle. And in marketing, you stand in the middle between the product and the customer. So you should understand what is it that your product offers deeply. What are the features? What does it do? What are the benefits? Like what is it? And then on the other side, you understand your customer. What do they need? What is it that they're looking for? Both like very functionally, but also emotionally. What are they looking for? And in the middle of those two, the product and the customer, you can translate the value of the product on the one hand to the customer on the other. Translating value, communicating value in my mind is really the first step. It's really at the core, right, of everything. And I think it's the step that is most missed by organizations of every size because
Yes.
it's really quick. It's easy to just move to distribution to say, oh my goodness, like we have to start a TikTok account. We got to build a website. Need an Instagram. We need an email program.
Mm,
And you go in the direction of pursuing tactical things, which are important. I'm not diminishing the importance of those things. Like that matters. The issue is that if you don't have a very clear story of the value of what you're selling, one that's
mm.
truthful to the product that you sell, but also rings interesting and true to your customer, it doesn't matter how amazing your TikTok is or like how great your like life cycle marketing program becomes. Ultimately, there's a disconnect. You are not going to be successful in my mind. So really the first step is this crystallization
Yeah.
of, and that is not easy. And just back to your question about AI, I really think we're far from AI being able to do that. We're far from that. What AI can do is if you have a very clear idea of like who you are, again, what the value is that you're communicating, what the messages are, then I think you can use AI to figure out how to translate those messages into
Yeah.
content. But without that initial like kernel of like truth, and by truth, I mean a clear value
Yeah.
statement, I think
Yeah.
that like AI cannot solve that problem for us, at least not so far that I have seen.
Yeah. No, I think you're so spot on. And that's what I have figured, that unless you're ICP and every single insight that hits the head of that ICP in a certain way, they ring, that rings a bell and they see, okay, I need this. I give this example where a company advertised a new socks brand, right? Like socks. There are thousands, nobody bothers about what sock they're buying. And the messaging sounded like, so buy socks that don't slip. Now,
Mhm.
one of the biggest issues in the hidden or, like the half socks is that they slip. But this example kind of really hits home because I get it that, what you're saying about your ICP, getting the right message. AI can never get these insights, drive it or summarize or conceptualize it for you. So, and I love it the way you put it. You just didn't put it like a marketer. I see the professor in you, the way you simplified. And this is one of the best easily put definitions that I've heard. Question about tactical and, the fundamental thing that you mentioned about. A lot of times it's super tough for guys in the early stages to even know which ICP is going to be their PMF, right? And you could hit sometimes a $500,000, $1 million, but you later understand that this is not the guy that I really get the best value from, or I don't want to be selling to them forever. Do you
Yeah.
also have a suggestion at that stage? I know SEMrush is way beyond that. Like you guys know exactly who you sell to, like every
Mhm.
message nailed down. But go
Mhm.
back to your days from the startup or that confusion because you don't even know who's your ICP.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the confusion exists in companies of all sizes. I think it's because I describe it as a loss. Like I think when you decide to focus in on a customer segment and a very clear value proposition, that also means you have to let go of others. And I think that
Yeah.
process of letting go is very difficult. It's been difficult for me as like being my own, as a business owner, it's difficult for me as a marketer. It's like not easy because you feel like, am I letting go of opportunity by narrowing down what I'm doing? My perspective on this is that actually you don't. Like when you clarify, you become more authentic and more appealing to other people. When you don't clarify, you become everything to everyone, which is nothing to no one. And so,
Yeah.
but this is not easy. And so I think like go back, for example, to my time at Zillow. Zillow is a marketplace, like the largest real estate marketplace in the US. And when I started, we were still, I mean, we had just gone public. It was still a very quite small company though, like about 500 employees. And we were serving many segments. Like we had people who were looking to rent. We had people who were looking to rent out their places, both like large companies that owned a lot of units, smaller landlords that had one or two units. We also had homes and people selling homes, people buying homes, mortgage lenders. There's a lot of, it's a marketplace, right? So that's a very different dynamics too of like a marketplace type business. But there are a lot of customer segments that we were trying to target. But there was one that the company really rallied around, and it was, we called her Beth the buyer. And Beth the buyer was the center of the universe of that company. And it was very clear to everyone within the company that actually our primary target was Beth the buyer. And so when making decisions about anything at all, Beth first. Everyone else came second, but Beth came first.
I
So
have to know who Beth is. Like, do you have like a real quick intro?
no, Beth is just the customer persona, right? Like we just called her Beth internally. So
what's the persona? Who is it? Because with so many.
yeah, so basically customer personas, like when they're well executed by companies, they're kind of like a fictional representation of your ideal
No,
customer,
yeah.
right?
No,
Yeah, and
I've done persona. I'm curious to know who Beth is. Like, what's her persona? Or,
well, I mean, it's been a while since I worked at Zillow, and I don't know how much I'm allowed to share about exactly like the research behind Beth, but imagine her as like a home buyer. Like Beth was the home buyer
oh,
persona of the company. And
okay.
like Zillow had just, I mean, it's an incredibly customer centric company. I would say it's like part of the reason why they've been so successful. But I think for companies that have a lot of different customers that you're trying to target, like it's never going to be one customer, right? You're always going to be
Yeah.
targeting multiple people. But I saw when I was at Zillow the incredible value of prioritizing who it is that you're talking to first.
Hmm.
Like who is the most important person? Like in the world of, marketing tools, like if you're a tool that sells a lot of different tools, like are you talking to SEOs first? Or are you talking to
Hmm.
social media marketers first? You can be talking to many people. You will be talking to many people. It's not like you can isolate the conversation
Yeah.
to one type of customer. But I think that you need to prioritize it. Otherwise, you fall into the risk of, again, of being like everything to everyone, nothing to no one.
Makes so much sense. And I mean, I'm a big fan of buyer personas, and I think this is one of the biggest challenge for not just Series A companies in the beginning, like most of the times, I mean, till the company really gets a solid ground. Now, coming to the favorite three things that, or I mean, in Zillow, you've done multiple marketing channels and I'm sure you prioritize. So let's just look at this startup who's possibly doing $100,000 to $200,000 a year, and now they just want to expand on a few case studies that they have been able to build. Maybe they haven't hit PMF. How would you suggest that they should look at their marketing stack? And this is early 5-6 people, maybe that's kind of it, right? And what would be your like in order of importance, how should they look at their marketing stack? And B2B, we're talking of B2B here.
Tech stack or like channel, basically their channel
No,
strategy.
channel, because I see that, your wisdom is so powerful. I mean, tech would be like kind of getting it narrowed down. So let's hear the strategy part of it, and maybe we can just
Yeah.
quickly go over the tech stack.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I could tell you, listen, I wish I could say there's this formula to scale up, like a startup that's at this phase to this phase. And people will sell you this. People will sell you the formula
Yeah, yeah.
online. My experience is that there is not, that there is no such thing, that every company is so unique, and not just because the products that you're selling are unique, but also because the team that you have internally is very unique. And so you could have someone who is killer at advertising and killer at like figuring out like ROI for any kind of paid placement. And that would give you a competitive advantage over a company that doesn't have that person on staff. So
Wow.
there's so many variables that I think whoever, in my opinion, anyone online that is selling like here's the golden ticket to marketing success, I would approach with a lot of caution. Now, like some things that I would definitely think about is like in terms of like the product that you sell, there's, and whether it's B2B or B2C, and whether the product is meant to be an impulse purchase or whether there's a much longer sales cycle that really influences the type of channels that you pursue and the position that those channels could play in the customer journey. Like, there's a lot of like B2C companies that have scaled up. Like imagine something like Sweet Greens or these like green juices that have done really well on TikTok. Those companies have gone after like TikTok and paid social as a way to scale. And they're impulse purchases. They're like most people are not following the full funnel when they're buying a green juice. They stumble upon an interesting piece of content. Someone maybe presents like a before and after weight loss journey or a health journey that's very compelling, very interesting. Then you have a purchase. And for those companies, a company like Sweet Greens, like social and paid social is like incredibly important. Now, a company that could be in the same stage as Sweet Greens, but is selling a product that requires thinking and vetting, and there's multiple people that are approving this contract. It's more long term. It's not an impulse purchase. There's a longer sales cycle. Social could still play a role in that, but it's probably more in the discovery phase. Or it could also be in the nurture phase. Like you are in a B2B company and the person stumbles upon your content and they're like, oh, this is an interesting tool. I'm going to follow them. But it's very unlikely that that's going to lead to an immediate purchase.
Yeah.
So for those companies, most likely, like you have a completely different customer journey. If someone comes in through social, they're not going to buy immediately. So you want to have a really solid landing page that captures their information so that either a human being can follow up or automated like email nurture follows up with that person, tries to sort of qualify them to see if they could be. So the product that you're selling, how like the sales cycle of that product, I think really influences the strategy of the channel. And then the second thing that I would say is just the resources that you have internally and like how much money you have to spend. Like I'll give you this example of my sister. My sister is a doctor in New York, and she got advice from someone in her network, not me, that she should write a blog and that she's just starting her practice, right? That she should start a blog and she should capture traffic that then she can turn into patients. Now, she came to me to ask me, and I said, that's not bad advice. I think ultimately, yes, like you might want to start a blog, but she's a one-person business. She's a doctor starting her own practice. Like that's not where I would start. Like I would most likely start thinking about local SEO. So like how to show up for people who are looking for a doctor in my area. So that's a big priority. That's also free, by the way. Like you could do that by creating a Google business profile. You don't need money to make that happen. And then the other thing is referrals. Like, doctors usually grow a lot of their customer or patient base through referrals from other doctors and also patient to patient referrals. So building a referral program makes sense. So really, that's all based on the fact that she's a one-person business.
Yeah.
She doesn't have if she had a team of 20, go build a blog. If you're funded with like $50 million, go build an entire content team, build a TikTok, for God's sake, like become the next celebrity doctor. But that's not her reality. And so every business's internal reality is different. Okay, that was a very long answer, but it's a very complex question.
No, it is. It is. I think, you've touched upon some brilliant points there. And I completely understand the bit where you're saying it depends on the company that we are talking about. Let's go back to fundamentals. And like I said, when I did a lot of introspection on, things that I would have done right in the startup that didn't work, I felt there was one big fundamental issue about running ads. When you run ads, it's almost like a certain drug that gets you to sleep. Unless you take the drug, you can't sleep. Not everybody can hit a brilliant ROAS with ads, and a lot of sectors get crowded. I think, in my opinion, a lot of sane advice that comes from places like Y Combinator is also about you've got to hit that organic loop. And
Yeah.
that's where SEO comes in, and that's how I had discovered SEMrush. One of the biggest mistakes that I count as that I should have done, or now I figure that, everybody should look at it, is search engine optimization, and possibly now answer engine optimization,
Yeah.
GPT
All of that.
engine optimization, like all of that. Would you agree with that, or do you see a flaw in that? And I'm talking about like a 2 people, 3 people company. Let's say you get somebody who's starting. My advice, and this is where I want you to honestly point blank tell me that no, you're wrong, would be to those guys that please have a really solid keyword awareness, because that's a non-negotiable. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think, search is still the number one channel, like still the number one way people discover new businesses and services. And now it's very slowly migrating to like LLMs. So again, this whole topic of LLM optimization is gaining traction. We're starting to better understand like how businesses show up in LLM responses and how to optimize for that. But still, search is the most important thing. So I would say I like the way that you phrased it of like keyword awareness. I think this is really important. If you're building a website and you do not take SEO into consideration when you're building that website, you're making mistakes. Like even in the scenario of my sister with a small business, I immediately said you should absolutely include important keywords. You should
Local SEO. Yeah.
local SEO. Absolutely. Like this is incredibly important. So I agree with you. And I think that like figuring out how to build a growth loop is also very important. One thing that it's important to keep in mind for like businesses looking to like scale through SEO is that I think one of the most wonderful things about SEO and now AI SEO is that it helps you build a moat. If you crush SEO, it's going to be very difficult for your competitors to catch up with you quickly.
Yeah.
So that's a
I
huge
agree.
value, right? The downside of that, of course, is that building a moat takes time.
Yeah.
And so if you really want to dominate your industry, your top keywords in search and now in AI SEO, this is not a button that you turn on or off. You need to meet, and that's where people invest in paid, because paid is the opposite. With like paid ads, you can move a lot faster. You just need cash.
It's liposuction. It's liposuction. You can't lose weight with exercise. I mean, you go to a surgeon and say, cut this fat out, right? I mean, it's almost like that. But it's not good for your health. I mean, that's how I think about it. Because if you're trying to build a company and you're dependent on external funding, your ROAS or, your health doesn't come through in terms of your balance sheet. I feel like a lot of smart people, a lot of successful companies I meet, they nail this down, right? I mean, they nail SEO down. So let's drill down in. I want to learn a bit more about this.
I want to say quickly, just in defense of advertising, it depends. Sorry to say it, but it just depends. Back to this example of Sweetgreens, you'll notice that like a lot of like B2C businesses that do well on social are selling products that are quite expensive. And like I learned it when I had my own sort of e-commerce business, like my product I sold at $15, and so it was too cheap in order to make the ROAS work for me. But there is a sweet spot of certain products, and this did not intend to come into this conversation talking so much about Sweetgreens, but it's just a good example of a product that has found a niche where the like advertising is not so expensive and they're able to have a really high price point. So they have enough margin there to cover the advertising expense and still make money on top. So
no, I agree with you there. Yeah.
Those businesses can grow really quickly with like paid social because there is a return on ad spend immediately. But that's not the case for every product and every product category. Some product categories are so expensive to advertise for that you'll never you'll never be able to cover the advertising expense. And so you'll always have like a negative ROAS.
Yeah.
Depends. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll share my experience. So my company Nourish, which has been powering creators, specifically people selling online courses. Every time I saw success, and we've been powering almost people in 50 countries, making almost close to $60-70 million. That's kind of the volume they sell. Every time somebody would go successful and I look at their funnel, what I would look at and understand is that if they leverage paid advertising, they would have a smaller L0 program. So there's something that sells for $15, let's say $20, $30. They bleed money on the first acquisition. So they possibly paid $50, to acquire a guy who buys something for 15. So that's minus 35 right on the first pop. But now they have L1, which is actually $150 or $200. And they only offer it to guys who bought the first one. And now if you've sold it to 10%, 5%, you made your money back. And now they have an L2, which is possibly $1,000. And now they end up selling, 50 copies of that. So every time I saw someone in the knowledge or the courses or the academy business doing that, creators, that's what the funnel in the back was. But you're right. There are categories where this could work.
Yeah.
And let's go back to, absolutely. I agree with you. And that's another fact. The ones who made money in the first acquisition had expensive products. So that kind of, they had room to get the, let's say, a cushion to absorb the hit that you would get now and then with your losses on the ROAS, but they would go positive.
It's the Sweet Greens sort of playbook is expensive impulse. So
how much is it, by the way? I don't know the product, but how much?
Something I don't even know, but they're like big packages are expensive. I'm not a Sweet Greens customer myself. I just have looked at what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's this version that is like expensive impulse and like social first selling that does well.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, there's like a lot of companies that like, but then you need cash. And these are usually honest Silicon Valley VC funded companies that acquire customers at a loss with the expectation that those customers will then spend more money. They have a longer lifetime value, basically.
Yeah. This repeat sell.
Exactly.
But there's something else that I came across on social selling. So people who have an understanding for viral content, what they do is they basically hit a viral reel or a TikTok that kind of gives them, let's say, 20,000 people engaging with the content. Now they get to spend money on ads. This piece of content that's got a native virability quotient in it, it gives them like super low, click-through rates, people buying is just unbelievable. So I think that's another formula that I see in social selling that people kind of depend on heavily.
Yes, for sure. Like if you figure out how to make a viral content that is product focused, that's pretty awesome. I think the issue with a lot of viral content, there's many issues with viral content. First, it's really hard to replicate. It's like very difficult. My strategy is just to be viral. That's very, very hard for marketing teams to be able to execute on. And then the second thing about viral content is that often it is related to the product that you're selling, but not necessarily about the product. So you might get an incredible number of impressions, an incredible number of shares. So it's good for brand awareness, but it's not necessarily driving sales for your product.
Yeah.
And so,
no, absolutely. Let's drill down on your sister's case for a few moments, and I'm going to equate it with a 4 or 5 people team. Because you did agree with me that SEO would be a great idea even for her to think about. Let's say the keyword awareness had to be built in for her website, local SEO. A lot of companies selling, let's say, B2B SaaS or tech products. Can just a 2-3 people team crack it? What should be their step-by-step approach to kind of building that awareness and getting started with it? And I'm talking not just of SEO, LLM, TXT, all of that, right? AEO, GEO as well.
Yeah. Yes. Like I think if you have a 2-3 people marketing team that is really focused on SEO or like LLM optimization or AI SEO, however you want to call it, I feel like it's like not yet defined how this thing is going to be.
Not yet defined. You're right.
Of course. I think that's quite a lot of resources put into that like channel. So I think you'd have a good chance of success depending again on like the keyword set that you're targeting.
Yeah.
I think first step is always for me, like very clearly going back to that value, like what is it that we're selling? What are we saying about it? What is it? If you don't have that clear, your SEO strategy is most likely to fail. Understanding what your product is, how you're talking about it, what is value for your customer. And then from there, defining a content strategy that is aligned to that value. So I'll give you examples. Like, let's say we're talking Peloton. Peloton's like an exercise bicycle that is like
I know. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so they have product pages that are specific to different keywords like at home exercise, bicycle, blah, 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 right? So, like, that means that from the very beginning, they define what is it that we sell and what are the words that like people are using online to search for the things that we're
Hmm.
selling. But then on top of that, you have a content strategy that is aligned to the brand. So if you go into the Peloton blog, for example, they're not writing content in there that's about, here's like how to lose weight very quickly. Their content is about training, exercise, becoming stronger, becoming more confident. So there is an alignment between the content that is being written in the blog and the overall value proposition and brand message that they have defined.
And of course, keywords possibly. I mean, they've understood what are the keywords that drive the best traffic conversion for them.
Exactly, exactly. So, SEMrush also very clear value proposition for like their various products. And then on the sort of content side, so when I say content, I'm talking about mostly like informational keywords. So not things that are necessarily going to generate a sale immediately, but that are topics that your target customer is potentially looking for on either like LLMs or on Google search. So for SEMrush, it could be like, what is SEO? Like, how do I come up with a social media content strategy? Those are all topics that people search for, and they might land in the SEMrush blog. They might land in SEMrush Academy, for example. But like, we as a marketing organization are generating that content because there is clarity for what the company stands for, which is that we help marketers like succeed in all these different areas of marketing. But without that
Hmm.
clarity, even in a very small team, you might have one person going crazy talking about like UTMs only because they're obsessed with UTMs and writing a bunch of content around whatever UTMs as like a random example. But in a really like large marketing organization, without that guidance of like who are we and what are we trying to say? Like, what do we stand for
Yeah.
here? I think it's very difficult to do proper SEO, also very difficult to execute on like a content strategy that rings true to the customer.
Yeah. Yeah. You think like a two people team, they should get onto blogs. So two-part question, you lead academy. I feel academies are brilliant for SEO as well as deeper community building, customer education. Could an academy be the only way somebody builds their SEO strategy? Now, I'm talking of like, let's say your sister. Could that be her only strategy and weapon that she wields for building her SEO journey and, kind of getting in onto this strategy?
Unlikely, only because I mean, it depends on what my sister is writing about, but or what she would write about. But I think academies are mostly, if you're thinking about them as an SEO tool or like a way to drive SEO traffic, they're mostly going to be hitting upon informational keywords. Unless your academy is very focused on like training your product only, but even in that
Hmm.
case, it's very likely that that would then fall more into the very, very bottom of the funnel. So retention of customers and not so much at the very top, which is where SEO sits. Okay, driving new people into your website. If you have
Hmm.
an academy intended to drive new people into your website, you're probably building courses on how to get started with SEO, like, or in the case of SEMrush,
Yeah.
right? In the case of my
Yeah.
sister, who is a psychiatrist, it could be mental health related topics, like how to
And
uh,
that could be top. Like, I mean, don't ignore these three signs to take care of your mental health, right? I mean, things that you kind of catch on early.
yeah. It could be how to reduce your anxiety at work or how to, depending on, again, back to the value proposition. Like if my sister
Yes.
built
Yes.
up a business, she's a psychiatrist, she would have to say, what is my customer, my target segment? Like, is it women? Is it men? Is it children? What is it? Who am I talking to? And then you would build content that specifically like targets and is relevant to those particular segments and topics that they care about. But without that initial strategy, then you could just build a bunch of courses that actually
Yeah.
have
No,
a
I that's where
or
I
Yeah.
That's where I recommend to everybody that keyword awareness is the first thing that you'll have to nail down. And it's,
Yeah.
I think you can't get that. You very well said it in the beginning that, your message, what do you want to offer as value? Who are you offering it to? And I think
Exactly.
you can't get to keywords unless you've got that figured, because then you don't even know.
You don't even know. Like this is first, and then you can look at keywords. And actually, it could go back and forth where you think, okay, I'm going to talk about whatever anxiety, and then you
Yeah.
go into keywords and you realize actually people are looking more for stuff around stress. They don't talk about anxiety; they talk more about stress. So maybe my course is, if I'm building a course, it could be more about stress and
I could,
anxiety. Like I think that
yeah.
I think can be also market research in that way. It can help you refine how you talk about something because it gives you a sense of how people are searching online, which I
Yeah.
think is
Yeah. Yeah.
cool. Um, but back to the sort of can an academy be your entire SEO strategy? My answer is no, because academies, if you're looking at them for SEO, then you are building content around informational keywords. So things that are at the very
Yeah.
top of the funnel, not necessarily related to your product. And you want to be able to also have content that is specifically related to your product because you want, when people are searching for SEMrush SEO checker, you want the
Yeah.
SEMrush
You
SEO
can't
checker,
build that. Yeah.
right? So you cannot build an SEO strategy that is focused only on informational keywords. In fact, I would say if I were a business just starting with SEO, my recommendation is to always start with transactional keywords. So
Mm.
start with the bottom of the funnel. Don't start with the top because you want to first like capture the people that are searching for you and searching for your products very specifically. Nail that first
That's
and then expand
wow.
other
I
things.
love that. I think that was kind of a golden nugget that you dropped there. It's brilliant. So no, it clarifies it for me. I
Yeah.
didn't think it of, that way, but I like it. So that's where maybe the local SEO for your sister, because that's kind of
Yeah.
the bottom, right? I mean, you're looking
Bottom.
at a clinic or a doctor who could help me right now. I'm depressed. I'm looking for help. I had a breakup, stuff like that. So
You are looking for psychiatrists in New York City, and those
yeah.
people are that's at the very bottom of the funnel. I would start there before starting a blog that talks about 3 ways to prevent workforce anxiety. I mean, yeah, and by the
Wow.
time your blog is ranking for that keyword, like that, might take a long time. And even if you rank, that doesn't mean those people are actually going to become
Yeah.
like
So
patients immediately.
I'm going to we should flash that on the screen. Start from the bottom of the funnel. And I think that's like
Yeah.
super powerful. Let me go deeper into this question now. We've figured the bottom of the funnel keywords for our organization, this company that wants to go, and get to the next level. With tools like SEMrush, can they crack it with only SEMrush as the tool, or let's say maybe a couple of other tools? What the stack would look like if they figured, let's say, 15, 20 keywords now, and they want to go with a combination of blogs? So that's the question. In kind of the joint question is: are blogs still the things that people read? I mean, is that like a good, or is that the only SEO bit that you would suggest?
No, I mean, I think this is like a very contentious topic in the world of SEO at the moment, like to blog or not to blog. And
That's why I asked. Yeah.
I'll tell you my perspective. So, like, you, the foundation, as like people's search habits move towards LLMs, and they're asking more and more informational queries to LLMs. Like in the past, you would ask, "Help me with an SEO." Like, what is SEO? You would ask it on Google. Now you might ask an LLM, "What is an SEO strategy? Like, can you help me with my SEO strategy?" Different,
Yeah.
no, completely different, more conversational approach to finding an answer to a question. This universe of search is changing like very rapidly. And so the way that your brand would show up in an LLM for an informational prompt like this, help me with my SEO strategy, is that the LLM would cite you as a source. So they might include
Yeah.
information on what is SEO, and then they would say, here's a link to the source, and that's SEMrush. So, in order for you to show up as a source for keywords that are important for you, like not keywords anymore, actually prompts that are important to your
Yeah.
brand, you need to have a very strong presence for those terms on your not just on your website, but also across the internet. So, I think the
Yeah.
biggest
Backlinks. I mean, it's
so not
still,
even not even backlinks. Like one of the biggest changes that is happening right now is that in the past, SEO was all about backlinks and now we're moving away from backlinks being the number one off-page SEO strategy towards a strategy of like third-party brand mentions. So like LLMs care about how your brand shows up on the internet, so not just on your website. And it's not just
maybe not even a link. It's just a mention, and that's good.
exactly,
Yeah.
maybe even a link. It could be that you show up in Reddit in a bunch of subreddits as like, we love this product because XYZ. That is a brand mention that's not a backlink that LLMs would consider as they are thinking, as they basically construct personalized answers to people's prompts that are related to your brand. So back to the question about blogging. So blogging matters for several reasons. Like blogging matters for search and informational, like traditional Google search queries. So if you want your brand to show up for informational terms related to your product and your brand, blogging is still a tried and true way to make that happen. The second reason blogging matters in the world of, and this expanded world of search, right? Where you have LLMs, you have Google search, you have multiple different LLMs, you have Claude, you have ChatGPT, you have Perplexity, you have Gemini, right? Blogging still matters because it establishes your topical authority in a particular topic.
Wow. So you're writing for the LLMs.
You become a source of what LLM answers. So you're no longer that you're a blue link. It's no longer that people will then be like, what is SEO? I'm going to click on SEMrush. It's
you'll
that
be mentioned. Yeah.
You show up as a source, and you can also be mentioned. Like SEMrush is a great tool for SEO. But if you want ChatGPT to say SEMrush is a great tool for SEO, you need SEMrush to be mentioned widely beyond your website. So I hate to say it, but it's true. Like, the blog matters, but now it's not just your blog. Now it's how are you showing up in third-party sites that are being used as sources for LLMs. So it's kind of an expansion. We're seeing an expansion beyond the website is what we're seeing in the world of search.
Yeah. And the last part of the question, can single person, 2-member team with a license of SEMrush crack it? Like they start writing pages that have all the things like on page, like all the, whatever they call H1, H2, meta tags, all of that. Like, is that possible?
100%. I mean,
you don't need an agency. You don't need an agency. That's a question everybody asks.
It just really depends. I mean, it really depends on how qualified the people are that you have internally. Do they understand SEO deeply?
They all have ChatGPT, right?
Yeah,
they are semi.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said about specialized agencies, right? Like people who, like, I think that Steve Jobs, it wasn't Steve Jobs, it was Jeff Bezos, like famously said, like, you cannot compress time. Like there is no algorithm for compressing time. I believe this, like in the bottom of my heart. Like I spent 20 years myself, like looking at marketing problems, and I've made a lot of mistakes. And that's not like when people pay me for consulting, they pay me for that, for the time that I have spent and the mistakes that I can avoid. So I'm a big believer in that. So I think that people that not every SEO agency, but people who are offering services and they've dealt with SEO for 20 years, you cannot compare that to who's just starting to search about what is SEO on ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
Time to learn, to perfect, to understand. Can you learn it? And like, can you do it yourself? 100%. Like this is like, I have no doubt about this. Like there's never been more information, more educational resources for someone to like pick up a skill, particularly in the world of marketing, and just run with it. Like that, I'm 100% sure. Like if you have SEMrush and you have the internet to learn how to use it, like you will be successful in SEO. Will you be as successful or as fast to success as if you hire an SEO agency who's been doing it for 25 years? Impossible to answer that question, right?
Yeah, no, I get it. So I want to ask you this last question. Academy at, SEMrush that you run. Is this a tool for your bottom funnel conversions, like, mid funnel community building, or are you just getting people to get aware of things, or all three?
Actually, it's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we run, like, our courses are free and we have no intention to change that for, like, there's never been even like a hint of like that changing. And we want to continue offering them to the community and people who want to learn digital marketing skills. I think it's like quite a mission driven and exciting like part of the business to be in, at least for me. And then our courses are a mix of what I call sort of like strategic marketing insights. So we give context on like what is SEO, what is on-page SEO, what is technical SEO, but then we sort of anchor it back to the product. So if you are someone who doesn't use SEMrush but are just looking to learn SEO, you can get something from the course. But if you're someone who uses SEMrush and are trying to just figure out how do I do on-page
Yeah.
SEO or technical SEO with this tool, you can also get value. Like I would say that I mentioned earlier that we have like it's important to have a prioritize like target customer. So my priority is always SEMrush customers. Like that is I build the courses with that in mind, but also knowing that they serve a wider audience. There we have a lot of like learners or students, we call them students internally, that are not SEMrush customers and are just taking the courses to advance their own like professional understanding of marketing topics. And that's great too.
So education as marketing, you believe almost every company should be doing it, right? That's something that I truly believe in.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think for SEMrush especially, it's important. Not every company has this. Like there are some products and tools that are like you can just pick up and use. Like, does
Yes.
Instagram need an academy? I'm not sure. You're an Instagram user, you go into Instagram and you just cycle through reels. Like no one.
They have a huge academy. They have a huge academy that teaches how do you crack the algorithm.
Exactly. The academy is on the marketing side of the house.
Yes.
It's on the B2B side of the house, like for
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
advertising on Instagram. But the consumer product does not have an
Oh
academy.
yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yes.
not needed, right? So not every product needs an academy, but I would say for products that require specialized knowledge in order to be successful, if you like, for me, it's if you cannot pick up the product and be successful immediately without having an understanding of something, then you should consider a customer education program. Because otherwise you might be missing out on a lot of people that are not able to understand the value of your product, not because your product is not good, but because they just don't have the understanding or the background needed to be successful with it. So for those products,
Wow.
say like educational content is important.
I want to give you a compliment. You just simplify things in such nice words that are stitched together. You know, they just flow. Well, thank you so much. I think that was beautiful and really, you know, such a pleasure, so much of learning for me to kind of interact with you and, you know, be able to ask you all these questions. I would love to do this again if you know, will ping you, and if you're around sometime, I think some of these things we will want to kind of drill down into and convert this into maybe, like, we do a lot of free education, and I believe SEO marketing and the way you are simplifying these tough concepts is just brilliant. So, you know,
Anytime.
I'll reach out to you, but thank you so much for taking
Thank you
out the
so much.
time.
It was a pleasure
And
meeting. Thank you for having me.
pleasure.